Namaste. Welcome to day 2 of the International Peace Day celebrations organized by the Hindu Hub, Singapore. This is a 5-day celebration in which we pray to Lord Ganesha in honor of the milk miracle that happened many years ago on September 21st. On this day, Lord Ganesha drank milk all over the world and showed his presence to his devotees. In memory of that event, we celebrate this function to get the blessings of Lord Ganesha. Before we start the program, let us begin with the prayers. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Om Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Keep your eyes closed and pray that today's session on Ganesha and diversity be beneficial to all of us and help us attain the blessings of Lord Ganesha. With a few blinks, gently open your eyes. So today's session is about how Lord Ganesha represents the principle of diversity and how he showers his grace on devotees. Now, before we get into the sharing, we should understand what exactly does diversity mean. Diversity means inclusiveness. Diversity means understanding the various parts of creation, the different ideas, the different aspects of life. That is diversity. And we are going to understand how Ganesha represents and protects this diversity. The worship of Ganesha is very, very ancient, and he has been praised in literature and sculpture. For example, the Ganesha that we are seeing here is as old as the 5th century before the Common Era, from a place called Udayagiri. So Ganesha has been represented in Hindu art for a very, very ancient period. Let us understand what the word Ganesha and some other words of his mean. For example, the very popular name of Ganesha, Vinayaka, means without a lord. That means he has not been created by Lord Shiva. He is the creation of just goddess Parvati. Ganesha represents 3 parts, Ga, Na, and Isha. The Ga word of Ganesha represents Jnana. The Na part of Ganesha represents Nirvana, and Isha represents the union of Shiva and Parvati. That is the symbolic meaning of Ganesha. This is not an etymological meaning, this is a symbolic meaning of his word. Gam is his bija mantra, or what is called Ekakshara mantra. So Gam, when we pronounce the word Gam, it is as good as knowing and understanding Ganesha. So the most sacred and the holiest of his names is Gam. Now, what are the sources that we are going to refer to in today's session? For most of the information on Ganesha worship, Ganesha meditation, and his glories are in the Puranas. So there are 2 Upapuranas, that is 2 minor Puranas called Ganesha Purana and Mudgala Purana, which talk about Ganesha. They are solely devoted to the worship of Lord Ganesha. Then among the 18 Mahapuranas, many Puranas talk about him, but we are mentioning just 2 of them, Brahmanda Purana and Brahma Purana. Similarly, from the Upanishads, which represent the Shruti. The Puranas represent the Smriti, and the Upanishads represent the Shruti. So in the Shruti literature, we have the Ganapati Upanishad, also popularly called Ganesha Atharva Shirsha Mantra. That also talks about the idea of Ganesha as Brahman. Okay? So these are the few texts that we will be referring to in today's session. For example, let us begin with the Shruti. The Shruti is the Vedas, and that is the foremost pramana for Hindus. That means our basic knowledge on anything is first sourced to the Shruti, and whatever the Shruti says is the final word. So let us understand what the Shruti and the Veda has to say about Lord Ganesha, because that is the final word. Because for us, the worship of Ganesha is not some new idea. It's not a fad. It's not a new fad. It's a very ancient worship and revealed to us by Ishvara himself. So the Ganesha Upanishad looks at Ganesha as not just one form. Okay, we are used to seeing Ganesha as popularly as with an elephant face, 4 hands, big belly, and with a tiny mouse. That is how we always look at Ganesha. So we have in a way, we have exclusively looked at him. But the Upanishad doesn't look at him exclusively. The Upanishad thinks that Ganesha is Brahman, everything. There is not a single thing which he is not, including oneself. So he is everything. And let us see a few things what this beautiful Upanishad has to say about this lovely God of ours. For example, the Ganesha Upanishad says that Ganesha is Brahman. He is the creator, the protector, and the dissolver. Ganesha is the speech incarnate. As we speak, we are actually, what is speaking in us is Ganesha. He is the intellect incarnate. Our intellect is nothing but Ganesha. The joy, the bliss, the ananda of our life is also just Ganesha. And Ganesha is the one. There is nothing second to Ganesha. There isn't a thing separate from him. He is existence, intelligence, and bliss. What is in the Shruti called Satchit Ananda. Ganesha is representing all the elements like the earth, the water, wind, fire, space, the 5 elements, and the 4-fold speech. Ganesha transcends the 3 gunas. What are the 3 gunas? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. He is beyond these 3 gunas. And he is beyond the 3 states of the body. What are the 3 states of the body? The waking state, the deep sleep state, and the dream state. He is beyond these 3 states. He is beyond the 3 moments of time. What are the 3 moments of time? Past, present, and future. He doesn't have a past, he doesn't have a present, he doesn't have a future because he is everything. Ganesha is the eternal one and the foundation of everything. Ganesha is the center of the 3-fold Shakti. Which are the 3 Shaktis? Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. He represents all of them. Ganesha is the one on whom all the ascetics meditate upon. The ascetics who are searching for the highest answer, the highest goal, they pray to Ganesha. From a child to an ascetic, everyone is praying to Lord Ganesha. Ganesha is Brahma, Ganesha is Vishnu, Ganesha is Rudra, Ganesha is Indra, fire, wind, sun, and the moon. As he is the effulgence and he is the earth, the mid-region, and the heaven, what is popularly understood in the Shastras as Bhu, Bhuva, and Suva. He is everything. So this Upanishad is elevating Ganesha as the foremost principle in Hinduism, Brahman. It's not just he is the ordinary God that we pray to, but beyond that, he is the extraordinary, he is that final truth, the truth, the absolute truth is represented by Ganesha. This is how Hindus look at Ganesha. And in this Brahman is the principle that the principle of oneness encompasses the entire diversity. There is not a thing from that ant to the mountain to the sun, moon, anything that we can think of is represented by Ganesha. In this diversity that Ganesha is there anything which is small, which is big, which is bad, which is good, or which is to be looked down upon, or has to be seen superior? Everything is the same in the eyes of Lord Ganesha. This is the principle of diversity that Ganesha represents, and this is the principle of diversity that we must learn from Ganesha. Now, while the Upanishad talk about the principle of Brahman, that principle is all of us are able to understand it, but human nature wants to pray to God, to adore God. We want to adore Ishvara. We want to pray to Ishvara when we are in need. We want to pray to Ishvara to get more. We want to pray to Ishvara to fulfill our desires. So for that, we need a form. And that form is what the Puranas highlight. The Puranas dwell on the various forms of Ishvara, and in this case, Ganesha. And there is really no shortage of forms that the Puranas talk about. There's really diversity. There is no one form that Ganesha can be slotted into. That is why when Ganesh Chaturthi comes and on our WhatsApp messages, the kinds of messages we see, the kinds of Ganeshas we see, Ganesha from sugar cane, from vegetables, Ganesha from pieces of glass, chocolate, biscuit, name whatever it is, you can make a Ganesha out of it. So the form of Ganesha is as varied as this universe itself. So let us see how the Puranas look at his various forms. What are the various avatars he took, and what are the purpose of these avatars? So we always think that only Vishnu took Dashavatara. But actually our scriptures, Puranas, will say that all our deities in some or the other way took different forms. So there are different avatars for Shiva, there are different avatars for the Devi, and also for Ganesha. So let us see what are the different avatars of Ganesha. In the Satyuga, which is so Hindus divide their creation into 4 yugas: Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So once these are billions of years, these go, millions of years, hundreds of millions of years these yugas are. And once one cycle of 4 ends, then another cycle of 4 starts. So the creation in the Hindu world is unending. It has no beginning, it has no end. Okay. So in this Satyuga, we in this creation of ours, we are in which yuga? We are in Kali Yuga. So in our creation, let us look in the 4 yugas, how Ganesha, what avatars did Ganesha take? In Satyuga, Ganesha is presented as Vinayaka. Okay. And how is he represented? It's very important. The representation is very important. He's represented with 10 arms. He's very huge. He's very generous in giving gifts. See, for all of us who are what do we do? When we give a gift, we want a return gift. But Ganesha is not like that. He's very generous in giving gifts, and he rides a lion. This is his avatara in the Satyuga. In Treta Yuga, which as you know is the yuga in which Rama took birth, Ganesha is in the form of Mayureshvara. That is, he's in the form of, he rides a peacock. That is why in various temples, even you can see he will be seated on a peacock, because we always associate peacock with Lord Kartikeya, but even Ganesha rides a peacock, and in the Treta Yuga, he rides a peacock. He has 6 arms, and he has white complexion. Then in Dwapara Yuga is famous for the birth of Lord Krishna. In the Dwapara Yuga, he's represented as having 4 arms. Okay, he's riding a mouse, the favorite little tiny mouse. And the Mickey Mouse got its inspiration from our Ganesha's mouse. And he has a red complexion. And he is born to Shiva and Parvati in the Dwapara Yuga. And he is called Gajanana. That is the form of Ganesha in the Dwapara Yuga. In Kali Yuga, he is Dhumraketu. He is of the grey color. His color is grey and he has got smoky complexion. He has 2 arms and he's mounted on a horse. He fights barbarians and he kills demons in the Kali Yuga. Okay, so barbarians are common to us. We know there are a lot of negative forces in this world, and who will protect us from them? Ganesha. So in these 4 yugas, and you can see in the Sat Yuga he has 10 arms. In Treta he has 6 arms. In Dwapara 4, and in Kali Yuga 2. Okay, so he is periodically his arms are also reducing. But of course that doesn't mean that his power is going away. It just means that that is the representation they are giving to Lord Ganesha. Okay, so these are the Ganesha's 4 avatars in the 4 yugas. Now, there is also in Mudgala Purana a very interesting thing. Ganesha took different avatars to do what? To kill various asuras. Asuras are beings of extreme power. And what is the thing about their power? They want to exclusively hold on to power without giving it to others. They don't want to share it. And usually the asura, they manifest their power by controlling the natural elements. So it is not just today that superpowers will try to control the water and the sea and the natural resources. Our asuras are in the past used to do that exactly. They would control the air, they would control the water, they would control the nether worlds, the upper worlds, and they would drive away everybody so that they can, and their rule can be established. This is how asuras were there in the past. And the asuras are of course also not just, they are also, they exist on 2 places. They are real asuras. The Ganesha actually fought them. But their names are very interesting because I will tell you why their names are very interesting afterwards, once we see what are the asuras he actually destroyed. For example, Vakratunda, seated on a lion, he killed Matsarasura. Now, Matsara means jealousy. See, these asuras are not just physically powerful and dominating, they also represent a certain mindset, a certain quality. And for that, you don't have to be an asura because we also have those asuric qualities in us. For example, Matsara Asura. Matsara means jealousy, having the feeling of jealousy. So as Vakratunda, seated on a lion, he killed Matsarasura. Then as Ekadanta, as Ekadanta, he sat on a mouse and killed Madasura. What is Madasura? Madam Pudicha Yanai. That means the elephant is in a rut, which means that intoxicating pride, that sort of asura Ganesha defeated as Ekadanta. As Mahodara, Ganesha sat on a mouse and killed Mohasura. Mohasura means delusion, having some wrong notions. That is called Moha, wrong notions. And as Gajanana, he sat on a mouse and killed Lobhasura. Lobha means greed. So we know that because we suffer from greed very often. And as Lambodara, he sat on a mouse and destroyed Krodhasura. Krodhasura means anger. That asura, that demon resides in all of us. Ganesha sat on a peacock and destroyed Kamasura. What is Kama? Kama is desire, not just any desire. Desire is great. But what is the thing about Kama? It is unbridled, uncontrollable desire. So where your desire makes you blind to what is right and wrong. Righteous desire is Bhagavan. In Bhagavad Gita, God says, I am dharmic desire. But here the Kama is adharmic, where you are completely uncontrolled and you don't know what is right and wrong. We also suffer from it in various forms. Then Vignaraja on a cobra, his vahana is a cobra. He called Mamatasura. Mamata, mama. That's egoistic. Everything is me, I, me, and mine. That mamata, that ahankara, That is something that Vignaraja destroyed. And Mahaganesha, seated on a mouse, destroyed Abhimanasura. Abhimanasura is pride about something. I have a car, or my education, my looks, my children, something. One garvam, one pride. He destroyed. This is actually a beautiful, I'll just repeat. So Vakratunda killed Matsarasura, Ekadanta killed Madasura, Mahodara killed Mohasura, Gajanana killed Lobhasura, Lambodara killed Krodhasura, Ganesha killed Kamasura, Vignaraja killed Mamatasura, Mahaganesha killed Abhimanasura. It's a beautiful, there's actually a shloka, there's a stotra called Ganesha Avatara Stotra, which actually says these. But it's okay if you are not familiar with the stotra, you can remember these. And in your daily seat of prayer, you can meditate upon this. And that Asura, who in some Yuga Ganesha would have killed, still lives in us in some form or the other. And we can pray to Ganesha to kill all these Asuras in us. You can use this as a prayer. And you can use this as a prayer, you can use this as a meditation. It's a very, very powerful way to meditate upon Ganesha and to cultivate the good values. Okay, so before this, we saw how the Hindu tradition looks at Ganesha and his diversity. So we saw how the Upanishad looks at Ganesha as Brahman, encompassing the entire principle, the single principle of this universe, Brahman. And then the Puranas talk about the various forms of Ganesha. That's what we had seen. Now, Ganesha is such a diverse God. He represents diversity to such an extent that he is not just prayed in the Hindu Shaiva tradition. For example, Ganesha is a Hindu deity. We know that very clearly. And in Hinduism, he is part of the Shaiva tradition because he is the son of Ganesha and Parvati, brother of Kartikeya. So he belongs to the Shaiva tradition. But Ganesha, what does he represent? He is the Vignaharta. That means he is the destroyer of all obstacles. He is the remover of all obstacles. And universally, whether we are in this world, whether we belong to this religion or that religion, this gender or that gender, this age or that age, the one common problem for all of us is that we have obstacles in our life. And who is the remover of all these obstacles? Lord Ganesha. So what has happened is that because he is the remover of all obstacles and because he has to be prayed first, I will talk about this a little later, he is the Prathama Vandaniya. That means he is prayed to first. Because of this, he is popularly worshipped in other cultures, in other religions also. Of course, these are all religions that have had their origin in India. So to some extent, that is why they are influenced by Hinduism. Okay, so let us see. So we are going to see now how Ganesha is worshipped in Thai Buddhism, how Ganesha is worshipped in Chinese Buddhism, Ganesha in Tibetan Buddhism, Ganesha in Japanese Shintoism, Japanese Buddhism, Ganesha in Jainism, and Ganesha in Vaishnavism. In Ganesha, in Thailand, for example, Ganesha is called Prapikanet, and which literally means remover of obstacles. Very, very clear. He's the remover of obstacles. You see a lot of Ganesha shrines. In Bangkok, if you go, there's a very popular Ganesha shrine. There is a particular province in Thailand which has very huge Ganesha statues. 3 of the biggest Ganesha statues are in this particular province. For example, here, this reclining Ganesha is one of the biggest reclining Buddhas in the world. Then this bronze Ganesha is the largest standing Ganesha in the world. And that is not in India, that is in Thailand. So they see the power of this God, they see the value of this God, and they have prayed to him by creating these, by building these huge statues of Lord Ganesha to show his power. Basically, it is that. It's not like a theme park. It is not to get it's not just a theme park or just to get some tourists. It is to, in some ways, it underlies the power and the ability to grant boons to devotees. And that's why these huge statues have been erected. So Ganesha in Thailand is not just in some statue, like it's not just some tourist attraction. He's not in just some statue. He's also an emblem. For example, the Department of Fine Arts has Ganesha as his emblem. And Ganesha, as you know, is the giver of speech. He is the lord of all the fine arts also. So the Thais have got it very correct, you see. So how is Ganesha worshipped in Thailand? Like we are very familiar, he's the remover of all obstacles. That is universal. Wherever Ganesha is prayed to, his greatest value is in the fact that he is the remover of all obstacles. He brings good luck. As I said, he's on the emblem of the Department of Fine Arts, okay, which shows that he is part of their life, okay. And even today, Ganesh Chaturthi is celebrated in Thailand. So Ganesha is a very, very integral part of Thai Buddhism. Now, in Chinese Buddhism, also Ganesha is prayed. There was a lot of interaction between the Chinese and the Indians in the very ancient past. So a lot of the Ganesha worship is there in China. This image is from a cave painting in China. And here it is represented, Ganesha is represented in a painting, very ancient painting. What is Ganesha in Chinese Buddhism? He is regarded as a bodhisattva, that means a future Buddha. He is the consort of Guanyin, and he represents loyalty, fortune, and healing power. So this is what he represents, and that is why he is prayed to among the Chinese Buddhists. Tibetan Buddhism also prays to Ganesha. There's a lot of importance to Ganesha in Tibetan Buddhism, and he's always represented in the color red. There is a small story to the birth of Ganesha in Tibetan tradition. For example, it says that Shiva had two wives, Uma and Ganga. And Ganga, she loses her newborn son's head because of a curse from Uma. So in Tibetan tradition, Ganga is the mother of Lord Ganesha, not Uma. And once her son's head is lost, then she's advised to take the head of a dead elephant to replace her son's head. So that's when she replaces her dead son's head with an elephant's head. And that is where the elephant-headed Ganesha is born. Then, very interestingly, the Lama institution, today we all know about Dalai Lama, that institution, that means it's a monastic tradition. That tradition was actually started by Ganesha, it is said. So this Lama tradition, this monastic tradition peculiar to Tibet was started by Ganesha. The story goes that Ganesha placed the brother of Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita is a very ancient monk of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So what he did was that he placed the brother of Sakya Pandita on the Mount Meru, and he made a prophecy that one day all the provinces of Tibet will be ruled by his descendants. And that's true. Even today, the Lamas have a great power, position, and respect in Tibet. Now, in Japan, Ganesha is worshipped. So from India, Ganesha worship went to China, Tibet, and from China, it went to Japan. In Japan, China is called Kangiten or Binayakaten. Okay? And what does he represent? It's very interesting. He represents the non-dual principle. That is the oneness, the principle of oneness that we understood in, of course, in a more elaborate manner, the principle of Brahman. But here it is a same version of that, a similar version, not the same, a similar version of that as the non-dual principle. And he is prayed for success in business and in love. So he's not just removing your obstacles, he's also a matchmaker and facilitator of love. Okay? So here is the vision. He's always seen holding an axe and a radish in his hand. And here, as we see, is an image that is the male and the female principle is represented here. So in this embrace, that the principle of oneness is represented by this embrace of two elephants. Now, coming back to India, in India, the non-Hindu traditions also worship Ganesha. For example, Jainism. That's another religion which had its origin in India, and Mahavira is their most important Tirthankara. For example, this book, Abhidhana Chintamani of Hemachandra, it mentions several forms of Ganesha, like Vinayaka, Gana Vignesha, and Heramba Ganesha. And he's depicted with the head of an elephant and a pot belly, and he carries a battle axe and mounts over a divine mouse. Very similar to how the Hindus worship him. Then Achara Dinakara of Vardhamana Suri. It's a Shvetambara. See, Jainas have two sects, Shvetambara and the Digambara. The Shvetambara sect of Jainism prays to Ganesha. Mentions that Lord Ganesha is worshipped even by the gods to achieve desirable boons. So it's not just human beings, even gods worship, and even the rishis and even the acharyas and the ascetics worship Ganesha. So Ganesha is worshipped before the start of any new ceremony or project. And then the Achara Dinakara gives various procedures on how to properly install images of Ganesha. In fact, in the Jain tradition, Ganesha has replaced Kubera, the Lord of Yaksha. A lot of functions of Lord Kubera are performed by Lord Ganesha in the Jain tradition. Okay, so many ancient Jain caves in India will have images of Lord Ganesha also. So you can see across the world. So Jainism, Buddhism, they all have incorporated Ganesha in some way or the other. Then Ganesha and Vaishnavism. See, Ganesha is a Shaiva deity belonging to the Shaiva family. But even Vaishnavites pray to Lord Ganesha. So, and this is not like in a modern Vaishnavism. Even in ancient past, Ganesha was worshipped because he is considered one of the attendants of Vishnu's general Vishwaksena. Vishnu had a general called Vishwaksena, and Gajanana is one of his attendants. So in many temples, you will have an image of Ganesha in India, in Singapore, and he's called Tumbika Arvar. That means the Arvar with a trunk. So he is worshipped even in the Vaishnava traditions. Okay, so what is the reason Ganesha's worship is so prevalent, and why is it so popular? Popular among the young, modern, traditionalists, everybody. Why? Why is it? There are two things. One is because Ganesha is the remover of all obstacles. That's the first thing. That is why, because obstacles are a big problem for all of us. Okay, the greatest, for example, Hindus believe that our life is a mix of what? Papa and punya, merit and demerit. And what happens? Merit comes to us in the form of comfortable situations, and demerit comes to us in the form of uncomfortable situations. And what is the main factor which lead to uncomfortable situations? Obstacles in all our tasks. We want to have and achieve a goal, there are obstacles in it. And that's what causes discomfort. So the highest form of papa is what? Highest manifestation rather. The highest manifestation of papa is in the form of obstacles. We get some or the other obstacle in achieving our goals. Okay, but the other reason why Ganesha is always prayed to in various traditions is because he is called Prathama Vandaniya. He is the first to be worshipped. Before we start any worship of any god, whether it is Shiva worship, Vishnu worship, Devi worship, he has to be first prayed to, and only then will all the obstacles be removed. And various Puranas give various stories about how they are worshipped. For example, Shiva, before he started the defeat of the Tripurantaka, Tripura, three cities, he prayed to Ganesha. And then he said that let everybody first pray to Ganesha. And then the Vishnu Puranas also, the Vaishnava Puranas also talk about Vishnu also says that Ganesha has to be worshipped first. And Devi also says Ganesha has to be worshipped first. So this fact that he has to be worshipped first is what makes him rather like you cannot miss him. He becomes a must. He's a must-have in any puja, in any task that we do. Even Veda Vyasa, for example, there is a story. For example, Veda Vyasa is the highest intellectual in the Hindu tradition because he has done everything. He is the one who has, what has he done? The most important. See, the Vedas are the most important literature for Hindus. And what has Veda done? What has Vyasa done? He has classified the Vedic knowledge into the four Vedas: the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. So this is a great task that he has done. Because of him alone, that we get the Vedas, and then he has given the Brahma Sutra to us. So he is a great intellect. Intellect means he is a divine person, divine guru. For us, guru means Veda Vyasa. Now there is a story which goes that after writing all these Vedas and the Brahma Sutra and everything, Vyasa got some pride. See, there's a natural pride. Once we achieve something, there is a natural pride. And pride is not just restricted to human beings. Even Mahans can will suffer from pride. Occasionally, they will also suffer from pride. So what he did, that he was not getting any ideas. He wanted to after writing the Vedas, after classifying the Vedas, he wanted to write about the Puranas, which glorify the various glories of gods. So when he started to write, what happened? Unfortunately, he did not get any ideas. So he told Brahmaji, what is happening to me? I'm not getting a single idea. My brain is just like gone dead. So Brahmaji tells him, you must pray to Ganesha. You are not praying to Ganesha, and only when you pray to Ganesha will you get the inspiration to write. And lo and behold, after he prays to Ganesha, he gets his ideas and he starts writing the 18 Mahapuranas. The 18 Mahapuranas, which is a great treasure on the glories of Hindu gods. How Hindu gods have to be worshipped, how they have to be meditated upon, how they have to be prayed to. All that is elaborately given in the 18 Mahapuranas. And these would not have been available to us had not Vyasa prayed to Lord Ganesha. Okay, now we will see a few stories where which actually highlight many aspects. I mean, of course, you are free to take your own meaning and your own lessons from these stories. My interpretation is subjective. Some of them are coming from the text. Some of them are my interpretations. But you can interpret in your own way because each of these stories have some lesson, some moral value to give. For example, now we will talk about some stories. There's one story from the Purana about Ganesha and Shani Bhagavan. That is why we in this story is particularly I'm highlighting because many of us, when we suffer from Shani Dasha, because when we have Shani Dasha, we undergo some hardships. Nothing, no problem with Shani, but it is our own karmas coming back to us in the form of hardships. So when we go through that Shani Dasha, people pray to Ganesha, and there is a reason for that. Why Ganesha is prayed to during Shani Dasha. You can pray to Shanishwara also, but you also can pray to Ganesha to get rid of the negative and the malignant influences of Shani. So the story goes that Shani there was a curse on God Shani. And the curse was that whoever, if he looked at anybody, then their head would get blown away. So Ganesha is born, he's a small child. He's born with a normal human head. And then Parvati and Shiva have called everybody to see their little baby. So of course, Shanishwara is very, very reluctant. He refuses to go first of all, because he knows that the moment he will look at Ganesha, something will happen to that child. But then because Parvati has invited him so lovingly, he decides to go. And then as soon as he comes to the party, he doesn't have a look at the baby, he just keeps his eye down. So Parvati says, no, please, you must look at my child, you must bless my child. And because she's insisting so much, what he does is a side look. He just gives her a side glance to that poor child, Ganesha. And immediately Ganesha loses his head, because this is the curse that is there on God, Lord Shani. The moment he casts his eye on anybody, that person will lose their head. Okay? That means Shani, the moment Shani's eye is on you, all bad things start happening. And even Ganesha is not exempt from that. Of course, the moment Goddess Parvati sees that her her child's head is missing, she totally gets flustered and she curses Lord Shanishwar. She says that you will become Ananga. That means you will not have a body anymore. She curses him. But then Lord Vishnu tells her, please don't curse, because you are the one who invited him. You are the one who insisted that he look at your son. It is not his fault. His nature is what he is. So you cannot blame him. So then, of course, she retracts it. She, realizing her mistake, Goddess Parvati retracts her curse, but then it's not fully retracted. And what she tells him that, you will have a body, but there will be one defect in you, and which will be that you will be lame. So your effect will be very slow. Wherever you are going, your effect will be slow, but sure, definitely. And then Vishnu fixes, in this Purana, Vishnu fixes, so he gets an elephant head and he fixes that head of Ganesha, of the elephant on Ganesha, and revives Ganesha. And then to Lord Shani, he gives him the Ganesha Kavacham, saying how Shani Bhagwan should also pray to Lord Ganesha, and gives him the Ganesha Kavacham. This Ganesha Kavacham, we will chant another Ganesha Kavacham. And this Kavacham, Kavacham is protection. It's a stotra in which you pray to Bhagavan to protect your body parts. So this Kavacham can be always chanted, and particularly those of us who are suffering from any Shani Dasha, a malignant Shani Dasha, we can pray to Ganesha with this Kavacham, and we will definitely be saved and protected. Okay, so that is a story. So this is a story of Ganesha and Shani to show that praying to Ganesha helps those who are suffering from any malignant influence of God Shani. Then there's another small story on Ganesha and Tulasi. You must have heard the story that people do not offer the Tulasi leaves to Lord Ganesha. The only exception is on Ganesha Chaturthi day, you can offer one leaf of Tulasi, not many, just one leaf of Tulasi. You must not offer Tulasi to Lord Ganesha. And what is the reason? The story goes like this. Okay, Devi Tulasi was performing a penance. Okay, and then she saw Lord Ganesha, handsome Ganesha she saw, and she said, I want to marry you. So Ganesha said, no, madam, it's not possible. I cannot marry you because I have sworn myself to the oath of brahmacharya. So I cannot marry anybody. But of course, Tulasi gets angry. She says that you have rejected me. I'm a woman. I'm asking you to marry me. You have rejected me. So I curse you that you will get married irrespective of whether you want or not. So whether you want it or not, you will get married. That is my curse. And in turn, she was cursed. Tulasi was also cursed, and saying that she should become a tree because she's insensitive to others' feelings. It's very important. See, Ganesha tells her that I don't want to get married, but she insists that he marry her. So we should not be like that. So because she was insensitive, she became a tree. But of course, she's a very sacred tree. She's not just any roadside tree. She's a very sacred tree for us. So this is the reason why Tulsi leaves are not offered to Lord Ganesha. This is just a story to tell you, like in case somebody asks you why Tulsi leaves are not offered to Lord Ganesha, you know this particular reason. Okay. Now, Ganesha is very good in curbing people's pride. It's, as I said, he defeated this Mamasura and Abhimanasura. I, me, ego. He has defeated the ego. Vyasa was also very proud of he was proud of his intellect. And Ganesha, how did he curb his pride? By making him forget, by making him he was unable to write. So making him forget things, making his brain not work. So that is how he curbed the pride of Vyasa. And then in this story, he curbs the pride of Kubera. Vyasa was proud of his intellect. So Ganesha taught him a lesson that without praying to Ganesha, your intellect won't work. Kubera is the yaksha he's the lord of all the yakshas, and he's the adhipati of wealth. So he is the pride of wealth. He has the pride. So these are the two prides which we all have. Either we are proud of our intellect or we are proud of our wealth. So in this story, we will see how Ganesha curbs the pride of Lord Kubera. For example, once Lord Kubera decides to hold a grand feast for all the Devatas, and he invites Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. Both of them are, of course, very busy, and they said, okay, we won't be coming. Instead, Ganesha, we will send Ganesha. So Ganesha goes to the feast. Very happily, he goes to the feast. As all the guests all the other gods have also come to the feast, Kubera very boastfully says, oh, here is Ganesha. He is a representative of goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva. He refuses to acknowledge that Ganesha is a god in his own right. He's in his own right, in his own way, in his own individuality. He's also Ishvara. He refuses to acknowledge it. He just says he is like, one representative of this god of Shiva and Parvati. And then he says this, and then Ganesha just notices it, and Ganesha sits to have his meal. So the food is served, Ganesha eats and eats and eats, and there is no stopping his appetite. His appetite cannot be satisfied. And Kubera's kitchen is now running empty. He cannot give any more food. And then all the gods are stunned that this little boy can eat so much, and is like in his stomach, his stomach is good enough to hold the entire food of this universe. So Kubera is totally frustrated and he runs to Kailasha with a fistful of rice, and he tells goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva that that's all the rice I have. I'm offering it to the Lord, to the parents of this world, to the universal parents. Please accept it, and please tell your son to stop eating or be satisfied with what I have eaten. And then at this, he does his, and by the time, of course, Ganesha is back in Kailasha, and Kubera realizes his mistake, that it is not just God, Shiva and Parvati who are gods, but Ganesha also is Bhagavan. So he does his namaskara to Ganesh, and he accepts his mistake. And of course, by then, God's appetite is completely satisfied. So here is a story which shows how Ganesha curbs the power of Kubera, the god of wealth. For us also, we think, sometimes when we make a donation of some $500 or $200 or $20 or $1, we think we have made this donation to the Lord. Actually, if he decides, nothing can satisfy him. But if we have the right attitude, even that 50-cent archana that we perform in the temples will be gladly accepted by him. And all the things that we want, we have a long list of desires to be fulfilled for the 50 cents we offer. They will all be fulfilled by the God himself. Okay. Now, there is another story. This is of Ganesha and Avvayar. Avvayar is a great Hindu saint, lady saint. And this story reflects and shows his kindness. See, God is there. What happens? Those who are proud and those who are arrogant, what he does, he controls their pride and arrogance. But those who are kind and nice, what does he do? It's not that he ignores them. It's not that he's always in a punishing mode only. He's also very kind. His 2 ears represents that cooling air. It's like a fan for all of us to provide us comfort. Okay. So Avvayar is a great Shaiva saint in Tamil Nadu. She belongs to Tamil Nadu. So she was a great bhakta of Shiva and also a great bhakta of Ganesha. So one day what happens, there are 2 other great Shaiva saints called Sundarar and Cheraman Peruman. So both Cheraman Peruman and Sundarar have decided to go to heaven. They have now decided they are going back to Kailasha. And Cheraman Peruman has a horse, and to his horse he chants Om Namah Shivaya, and he is going to reach Kailasha. And Sundarar has got the Lord has sent him the elephant. So to take the elephant and go to Kailasha. So Avvayar has heard that these 2 men have gone to Kailasha, and she also wants to go to Kailasha to go and see Lord Shiva. So what she does, she quickly starts praying, like us, no? When we have to go to for some appointment, we are quickly praying. So she is quickly in a rush, she is praying to Lord Ganesha. So Ganesha comes and tells her, Avvayar, don't worry, don't rush. Take your time, do all the prayer. I will ensure that you go to Kailasha before those 2 men. So she does her prayer, and Kailash, what Ganesha does is he lifts her in his trunk and he places her in Kailasha even before Cheraman Peruman and even before Sundarar can come Kailasha. Avvayar is there in Kailasha. So that shows what? If we have the faith in Lord Ganesha, then no matter who has achieved what, we can also easily achieve that. Cheraman Peruman has his Om Namah Shivaya, Sundarar has his grace of Lord Shiva, But if we have the God or grace of God, Lord Ganesha, then we can also attain that Kailasha. That Kailasha represents to us all our desires on this. Each one of us has our desire, which are like Kailasha to us. And praying to Lord Ganesha will help us attain our Kailasha. Okay? This is a beautiful story of Avaya. Avaya has written a beautiful work on Lord Ganesha called Vinayagar Agaval, where she talks about what all prayer to Vinayagar can get us. This is in Tamil, so you can listen to this audio, or you can. The English translation is available. I would request you to all read this and enjoy and understand the glory of Lord Ganesha. There's one more story again about Veda Vyasa. We already started. Previously, I shared a story where Lord Ganesha is curbing the pride of Veda Vyasa. But here, this story is representing a wonderful principle. Veda Vyasa starts to write his Mahabharata. See, Veda Vyasa is such a great intellect, a Mahan Guru. He has already classified the 4 Vedas. He has written the 18 Mahapuranas. And he has written the biggest Itihasa, the greatest poem of the Hindu tradition, Mahabharata. So when he is about to write that Mahabharata, he needs somebody. He cannot just think. He cannot think and write. So he needs an assistant who will write down. As he thinks, somebody will write down. So what happens as Ganesha starts to write? What happens? He starts writing with a feather quill. You know, that quill is there. The feather ink pen is there. That pen breaks down. So what happens? He doesn't wait. See, he's not going to say, he's not going to complain that, oh, my feather pen broke. You gave me a lousy pen, now get me a better pen. It's not like that. So the moment his pen feather pen breaks, he breaks his tusk and he starts writing. This is a great lesson for all of us. When a great dharmic task is there, and when we want to achieve a great dharmic task, a goal, then we have to make some sacrifices. And here, for an elephant, what is the beauty and power? The tusk. The tusk is the dantam, the tusk is the beauty of an elephant. But Ganesha didn't stop at it. He broke the tusk to write it. So there is no pride in him, and he's willing to make the biggest sacrifices. And that is a lesson for us. No pride, and be ready to make the sacrifices for dharmic acts. That's very important. For any dharmic act, if the sacrifice is required, it should begin with us. We always think others should sacrifice, but no, sacrifice begins with me. Okay, so these are some of the stories I shared on various stories of Ganesha to show how he showed his kindness, his grace, his blessings on people. Now, of course, I want to highlight a bit on this Ganesha Chaturthi Vrata. This is a beautiful Vrata which we all celebrate in the Masa, in the Bhadra month. In Sanskrit, it's called the Bhadra month. In Tamil, we call it the Avani Masam. The Chaturthi of that month, we celebrate the ascending Chaturthi, we celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. Now, this Ganesh Chaturthi Vrata, all the Puranas talk about it. Whether it is Skanda Purana, Varaha Purana, Agni Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Brahma Purana, every Purana will talk about the glory of this Vrata. And the beauty of this Vrata is that it can be performed by all. That's the universal. It is one universal Vrata. All human beings, irrespective of caste, age, community, whatever be your status in society, you can perform this Vrata. Gods, rishis, everybody can pray. And the benefit of this Vrata is that all obstacles are removed, universal welfare and prosperity is achieved. Okay, so we will take a vow that every Vinayaka Chaturthi we will celebrate with great gusto and Shraddha, faith. Now, for example, I'll give some examples of who all performed this Vrata. Krishna performed this Vrata to win Satyabhama and regain the lost Syamantaka Mani. He was accused of stealing the Syamantaka Mani, Lord Krishna, but then he prayed to Ganesha and he ensured that he was able to recover that money. Indra observed this Vrata to defeat Vritasura. There's a very big Asura. To defeat him, he observed the Ganesha Vrata. Bhagirathi observed this Vrata while bringing the celestial Ganga to earth. And then Krishna observed this Vrata again to get rid of his son Samba of leprosy. Samba was suffering from leprosy and Lord Krishna observed this Vrata to help Samba get rid of leprosy. So this Vrata is a it's got several benefits, and the most beautiful thing is that it can be performed by all. There is no restriction. That is why today the worship of Ganesha, as I said, all the forms, the different forms of Ganesha, we can pray to him. We can pray to him in the most elaborate idols that we saw in India, Thailand, in those beautiful bronze idols, or even in that little mound of turmeric. You can just keep a turmeric, you can make a triangle, or you can make a statue from a triangle, or you can just make a lump of in turmeric and pray to it as Ganesha. You can build elaborate temples for Ganesha, or just under the tree, next to a pond or a river, and under the tree you can have a Ganesha. This is the only God who doesn't need a temple. He is the sky is his temple, the tree is his roof, and he can live and he can be worshipped under that. So this is such an easily accessible Bhagavan, prayed to, and gives all the greatest of the goals. All the greatest of the goals are achieved by prayer to him. Now, as I said earlier, there is this Kavacham, this Ganesha Kavacham, which is the Ganesha Kavacham is a prayer which basically talks about how to pray to Lord Ganesha and pray to Ganesha to protect all our body parts. Okay, it's a beautiful Kavacha, and you can we know there are very famous Kavachas. For example, the Kandasashti Kavacham, that is of course very popular in Tamil, where we ask Ganesha, where we ask Lord Kartikeya to pray, protect our body parts. So this Ganesha Kavacham is asking for us, in this we ask Lord Ganesha to protect our various body parts. So I will chant it, and then you can, and I will explain some of the meaning, and you can also chant and understand this, okay? So let us chant this prayer. Vinayakah shikham patu paramatma paratparah ati sundara kayastu mastakam sumahotkatah. Vinayakah shikham patu paramatma paratparah ati sundara kayastu mastakam sumahotkatah. Lalatam kashyapah patu vruyugam tu mahodarah nayane phalachandrastu gajasyasya toshthapallavau. Lalatam kashyapah patu vruyugam tu mahodarah nayane bhalachandrastu gajasyastosthapallavau. Jihvam patu gana kridash chibukam girijasutah. Vacham vinayakah patu dantan rakshatu vignaha. Jihvam patu gana kridash chibukam girijasutah. Vacham vinayakah patu dantan rakshatu vignaha. Shravanau pasha panistu nasika chintitarthadah. Ganeshastu mukham kantham patu devo gananjayah. Shravanau pasha panistu nasikam chintitarthadah. Ganeshastu mukham kantham patu devo gananjayah. Skandau patu gajaskandah stanau vigna vinashanah. Hridayam gananathastu herambo jatharam mahan. Skandhau patu gajaskandah stanau vigna vinashanah. Hridayam gananathastu herambo jatharam mahan. धराधरः पातु पार्श्वौ पृष्ठं विघ्नहरः शुभः लिंगं गुह्यं सदा पातु वक्रतुंडो महाबलः धराधरः पातु पार्श्वौ वृष्टं विघ्नहरः शुभः लिंगं गुह्यं सदा पातु वक्रतुंडो महाबलः गणक्रीडो जानुजङ्घे ऊरु मङ्गलमूर्तिमान् एकदन्तो महाबुद्धिः पादौ गुल्फौ सदावतु गणक्रीडो जानुजङ्घे ऊरु मङ्गलमूर्तिमान् एकदन्तो महाबुद्धिः पादौ गुल्फो सदावतु क्षिप्रप्रसादनो बाहु पाणि आशाप्रपूरकः अङ्गुलिश्च नखान् पातु पद्महस्तोरिनाशनः क्षिप्रप्रसादनो बाहु पाणि आशाप्रपूरकः अङ्गुलिश्च नखान् पातु पद्महस्तोरिनाशनः सर्वाङ्गानि मयूरेषु विश्वव्यापी सदावतु अनुक्तमपि यत्स्थानं धूम्रकेतुः सदावतु सर्वाङ्गानि मयूरेषु विश्वव्यापी सदावतु अनुक्तमपि यत्स्थानं धूम्रकेतुः सदावतु त्रिसन्ध्यं जपते यस्तु वज्रसारतनुर्भवेत् यात्राकाले पठेद्यस्तु निर्विघ्नेन फलं लभेत् त्रिसन्ध्यं जपते यस्तु वज्रसारतनुर्भवेत् यात्राकाले पठेद्यस्तु निर्विघ्नेन फलं लभेत्. So here is the Ganesha Kavacham. I have chanted it and I'll just briefly explain the meaning to you. So we are asking for Vinayaka to protect the Shikha, the hair. So the Paramatma Vinayaka, let him protect my hair. Then the very beautiful Ati Sundara Kayastu Mastakam Sumahotkata, Sumahotkata. Mahodkata, let him protect my mastaka, the top of my head. Then Kashyapa, let Kashyapa protect my lalatam. Lalatam is forehead. And let Mahodara protect my bru, that means my eyebrows. Let Bhalachandra protect my nayana, eyes. Then let Gaja, let him protect my oshtha, that is my lips. Then Ganakrida, let Ganakrida protect the Jihva. Jihva means tongue. And let Girija Sutta protect the Chibukam, that is the jaws. Chin, actually, chin. Then let Vinayaka protect Vacham, my mouth. And let Vignaha protect my teeth, Dantan. Then Shravanau, ears. Pashapanistu. Pashapani, let him protect my ears, Shravana. And then Chintitartha, let him protect my Nasika, my nose. Then Ganesha, let him protect my Mukham, my face. And Gananjaya, let him protect my Kantha, my throat. Gajaskanda, let Gajaskanda protect my Skanda, which is my shoulders. And let Vigna Vinasha protect my stanav, my chest. Gananatha, protect my hridayam, my heart. And let Heramba protect my jatara, my stomach. Then let Dharadhara protect my parsha, my flanks, my sides. And let Vignahara protect my prishtham, my back. Let Vakratunda protect my private parts, lingam guhyam, private parts. Let Ganakrida protect my janu, that is Janu is my knees, and let Vakratunda protect Patu, feet, let him protect my feet. Let Ganakrida protect my Janu. Janu is knees. Uru Mangalamurtiman, let Mangalamurti protect my Uru. Uru is thighs. Let Ekadanto, Mahabuddhi, Pado, let Ekadanta protect my Pada, my feet. And Mahabuddhi, let him protect my Gulpa. Gulpa is ankles. So let Ekadanta protect my feet and let Mahabuddhi protect my ankles. And Kshipra Prasadana, let Kshipra Prasadana protect my hands. And let Asha Prapuraka protect my feet. And let Padmahasta protect my anguli, my fingers. And let Arinashanaha protect my nails. And let Mayuresha protect all my body, Sarvanangani. And let him protect all my body parts. And Anuktamapi, and if there are any parts that I have missed and which I have not talked about, let them all be protected by Dhumraketu. So that let Dhumraketu protect them. And whoever chants Trisandhyam Japet Yastu, whoever chants this Kavacha 3 times a day, Vajrasara Tanur Bhavit, his body will become like diamond. See, Vajram is like diamond. Okay, Vajra Deham, like a diamond is, you cannot, it's one of the toughest elements, diamond. It will be like that, Vajra Deha, or like thunder also they say. Okay, and Yatra Kale Patedyastu Nirvignena Phalam Lavi. Yatra Kala is journey, and that journey is also, it's not just that any yatra is not just like a physical journey. Besides a physical journey, it also means any task that you start, any task is also a journey. In that, let it be complete without any obstacles and let us get the fruit that we desire. So this is a beautiful Kavacha. Please chant it, learn it, chant it, and get the benefits of this particular prayer. So with this, we come to the end of this particular session, and I hope you liked it. Please give us your feedback, and what is it that you learned from it, and what is it that you would like to learn. Please give us your feedback at our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit, and on our website also. Before I end the session, I would like to say that tomorrow we have one more session. We have a special program of for children, in which we will be sharing tales of Ganesha for children and how to draw Ganesha. So please ensure that your children come and attend this program. It's a beautiful program, and I'm sure they will have great fun in drawing and learning about Ganesha, and also getting all the punya. So before we come to the end of the session, I would like to thank Hindu Hub for celebrating the International Peace Day through a 5-day program, and this culminates on September 21st, and giving me an opportunity to share about Lord Ganesha. May we say the closing prayers. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Sarvastaratu Durgani, Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu, Sarvah Sarvam Apnotu, Sarvah Sarvatra Nandatu, Durjana Sajjana Bhuyat, Sajjana Shantimapnuyat, Shanto Muchyeta Bandebhyo, Muktas Chanyan Vimochayet, Khameham Sarvan Vaijivan, Te Chakshamyantu Mam Sada, Maitri Syat Sarva Bhuteshu, Name Dveshostu Kenachit. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.